To now, this right after church, yes. Right after church, they'll have their first meeting of the new council where they will elect their officers, and then we'll have and go into that. All right. Thank you for my book. God bless you. So, we have in front of us more readings, and as you can see, they're in our beautiful, beautiful bulletin. The readings have to do with continuing with Joseph. Who can tell me where we left off with Joseph last time? Anybody? Huh? The brothers came. So Joseph is, as we've said, a type of Christ. Joseph gave all the glory and honor to Christ, okay? And in doing so, God kept giving him abilities and talents. And he was able to interpret dreams, and he went from being sold by his brothers out of jealousy to becoming a slave, to then being head of the household, but then put in prison because he was lied and accused unjustly, like Christ, who then in prison becomes head of the prison and was given talents so that he could interpret dreams, and he was in prison for years, 3 years. But then afterwards, Pharaoh had a dream that he needed interpreted, and Joseph was the only one who could answer this because God put it into Joseph. God did not forget Joseph, as Joseph remained virtuous and good. And Joseph then interpreted to Pharaoh. What did Pharaoh do? He took the prisoner, slave, and he made them head of the household, and to rule over all of Egypt, and to be right underneath Pharaoh. Isn't that amazing? That's what the Lord wants for us. To be taken out of the slavery of our sin, the prison of our past, or any hurt, and to be free, and to rule over the household of our soul and in our world, and to have dignity. And not only this wonderful dignity because of the virtue that he kept, but also to be able to help others. And that's what has happened now, because now we go into the 7 years of famine. There were 7 years of plenty, right? Plenty. Now there's 7 years of famine. And the question is, who was wise during the 7 years of plenty? Joseph, because he knew of the dream and understood it, and he told 20% of every year went into savings. It's an interesting thought. 20% of every year went into savings for the years that are lean. Now, Joseph's family out in Canaan, they didn't know about the famine. And so there, with the Greek word like spatali, they just ate everything and devoured everything, thinking that they were always going to be getting the same blessings, right? That it was going to be always good weather. So here's Joseph's father, Jacob, and all the other brothers, the 11 brothers, and they're starving. And they're hearing, they said, wait a minute, Egypt's got food. So Jacob told his sons, go into Egypt and find us some food or we will die. The fathers say, notice, Joseph is not only virtuous and good, but he's also wise and putting away, where his brothers, they were not so virtuous and wise. And that's why they didn't have their food. So they're coming in and they're going to Egypt. Now, get this. Have you ever come across somebody that you haven't seen for a long time and you don't recognize him? You don't? Or they don't recognize you, right? Sometimes you change a lot. Joseph recognized his brothers immediately, because he saw with love, he saw with virtue, and he knew his brothers. But the brothers did not recognize Joseph. They thought he was sold or even dead, maybe. And Joseph was in this beautiful place. Have you ever come across somebody in the past where you say, wow, they've gone a long way? They did really well for themselves. They're amazing. And that's Joseph. Virtuous and blessed by God, and able to be in a position, and the brothers, though, don't recognize him. And again, the beautiful thing is Joseph, even though his brothers did him so much wrong, did not hold it against them in his heart. He had already let it go because God was everything to him. And he was only God. That's what the whole story was Zacchaeus. Now Zacchaeus gave away his money, and remember Zacchaeus? He became a bishop. If he missed that money, do you think he would have tried to get it back? Yeah. If he missed anything from his past life, do you think he would have tried to do it again? Yeah. But Zacchaeus was so full of Christ, and that's what was the most satisfying for him. He didn't need to go back to that. Even though he gave everything away, he stayed with Christ and became a bishop. Joseph had it within him. He had already forgiven his brothers. But the brothers didn't recognize him. So Joseph runs out and he cries. And he's crying again and again about his brothers and his family. Again and again because he sees them in front of him. And like God, he knows what's in front, because this is only the first year of the famine, and there are 6 more, and they don't understand. So Joseph is now thinking, what is he going to do? And he asks, and the brothers have no idea, and they're being honorable, and they're doing everything they can, and they call themselves your servant, your servant. The brothers are calling them, and Joseph comes to realize that the dream that he had when he was a little boy is being fulfilled, that indeed his brothers are bowing down before him. But it wasn't because he would be great, it's so that he could save them. Yes, he's in a great position, but it's so he can save them, which is what Jesus is trying to do with us. And so the brothers are bowing down, and they don't recognize him, but they say, we're your servants. And they said, is your father well? Because he wants to know about his dad. And says, yes, your father, Jacob, our father, is well. And then they even tell him about more, and they tell him that there's another son, Benjamin, by his mother, his own personal mother, Rachel. And he had no idea, and he wants to see Benjamin. And he wants his father. But so what does he do? They come with money to get food, right? So he says, okay. He gives them all the food, all of it. Right? And he takes the money, but without them realizing it, he puts it back in their bags at the very top. And he closes their bags and he sets them out to go back to the home. So that when they open up their bags, they're scared because all the money that they used to pay Joseph for the food is still there. And they're afraid. They're wondering, oh my gosh, how is this possible? They're going to think we stole it or whatever, and so forth. But there they are. And they tell, right, their father. And they say, here's the food, but here's also the money. Right? One thing, though, that Joseph did to make sure, because he didn't want to send them only for food, right? Because he knows that they're going to need this again and again, and he wants to save them. So what does Joseph say? In order for me to know that you are telling me the truth, I want you to leave your brother. Who stays? Does anybody know? Well, first it's Simeon. Benjamin didn't come. This is the first time. So the brothers are coming without Jacob and without Benjamin. Just the brothers. Okay? And Joseph is crying, but he's not being very nice to them. Do you remember what happens? What does he do? What does he accuse them of? Yeah, he does that cup later. He accuses us, you're not here for good reason. No, you're spies. You're here to figure out everything about our country so that you can come and take war and take all of our things. You're spies. Spies. He says, no, we're your servants. We just need food. No, you're spies. And he's treating them in this way, harshly. He's treating them harshly to make sure that he has them close. Okay? And then to keep Simeon. And then he gives them all the food that they need. But he needs a way to keep Simeon so that he can get them to come back. Because he knows that they're going to go into hunger again. And the Lord our God does the same thing. In many ways, he wants to help us come back to him again and again. Because he knows that we need him, even though we don't understand what's down the road. And the other thing is, who was held hostage for us? Who was put in prison for us? Jesus. Jesus himself. So Simeon now is representing Jesus. And Simeon is there and held, and he says, I'm going to hold on to Simeon until you guys can show me that you're being honest and true. Which is also something that God does. He wants to make sure that we prove ourselves and to be honest and true and virtuous so that he can be with us always. So then what happens? They go back, they tell Jacob, they go, where's my son? And they think, oh my gosh, I lost another one. First I lost Joseph, now you left Simeon behind? And interestingly enough, they don't go back for Simeon. So there's something to learn. They left Simeon thinking that we lost him. And they ate all their food. Can you believe this? But this is the story. And they stayed with Jacob, but they ate all their food until they ran out again. And to the point where Jacob was saying, no, we can't go back, and I'm afraid we lost Simeon. Jacob says, we're going to die. We need to go back. And the brothers say, we can't go back unless you're letting us go with Benjamin. Because he wants to see Benjamin, and he wants to see you. And Judah stands up, the brother, and he says, I will take the place. And my children will take the place. I will not let Benjamin, Dad, I will not let Benjamin be taken from you because I know how important he is to you. And so then he does that, right? So then what happens? What happens is as Judah makes this promise, Jacob then takes Benjamin and they all come, the whole family. The second time now going into Egypt, but the whole family, right? And they're bowing down. They're bowing down to Joseph. And again, they don't recognize Joseph. But Joseph sees Benjamin and he's so happy. And he cries. And it says that he cries. And he cries privately. And then finally he can't contain it anymore. And he asks everybody from the house of Pharaoh to leave, all the servants. And then he cries openly. He says, I'm Joseph, your brother, whom you sold. And they were like stone. The Greeks like eminem kokalo. They were so afraid. What is he going to do to us? It's how many times people still react with God. What is he going to do with me? I have been found out. And the very person that I hurt is in front of me. But God is a good God and a gracious God. And in no way does he want to hurt any one of us, but only bring us close and to save us. And Joseph cries, and he grabs onto them, and he kisses, especially Benjamin, just like the father with the prodigal son, grabs him and kisses him on the neck again and again and again. And he feeds them, and he creates this beautiful banquet and takes care of them. Just like God wants to do with you and me. And just like the banquet here, that's the liturgy. He feeds them. He takes care of them. And he did this even before he revealed himself to them. Another thing that has happened, he put the brothers all in the right order. And they go like, how does he know which one is first and which one is second? And this was before. And then he finally says, I am your brother. After he feeds them. After he gives them the banquet. And after he clothes them. And he takes care of them. And then, again, they want to go. But he puts the cup into Benjamin's in his sack. And that's it, right? And they want to go. We're going to leave it at that. Okay? Cliffhanger. We'll continue next week. Okay? That's our cliffhanger. We're going to continue, but this is what our kids are learning today. All right? Now, you see here that the basketball tournament was a great success. Do you see?